Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Franchising Matters video series brought to you by Reshift Media. My name's Steve Bjors, and I'll be your host. Today, I'm joined by Michael Hyam, who's the CEO and co-founder of Franchise Assembly. He's been the franchise show director for the better part of a decade at the National Franchise Show, and you may very well know him as Sales King on Tik Tok. Michael assists franchise brands with continued education through Franchise Assembly and with their business development through his work on the franchise trade show circuit. He's highly regarded in the industry. He's produced hundreds of thousands of leads, connecting franchise brands with prospective business buyers. Michael truly is an industry influencer, and he's an established expert in the field of franchise lead generation with over 20 years of experience. And I have to tell you, we could not be happier to have him join us today. Thank you so much for being here, Michael. Glad you could take some time out of your day for us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
So right off the top, let's talk a bit about the Franchise Assembly. So I know it's a newer organization. Why don't you talk a bit about what Franchise Assembly does so our audience is a little more familiar?
Sure. So Franchise Assembly is really the brainchild of myself and my partner, who you guys know well, Leanne Caruso. We kind of, I guess, realized a gap in the marketplace when it came to a lot of franchise education on the business development side. And selling a franchise, it's really not like selling a car or a laptop at Dell. There's so much more involved that we recognize that from an educational standpoint, if you wanted to learn more or get into it, there's really not that much out there outside of starting right from the get-go and maybe getting mentored for someone who's already in there and just learning things as you go. So we wanted to do a bunch of different things where we can offer education freely. So the first thing actually was our conference, Let's Grow, which we had the inaugural one in February in Dallas. Great conference, again, centered around franchise development, but not just for franchise development, because franchise developers, whether if they're VPs, those are more empire brands, right? It catered towards CEOs. If you're the CEO of an emerging brand, then you're doing the franchise development. Towards marketing people, really, we try to bring different ththings like strategies and tactics and what's working and what's not. But really from an all-encompassing standpoint, where you can learn about marketing and legal and real estate and construction, and all those things really do apply to franchise development. And there's so much education out there, so we tried to put as much as we could into 2 days, and thank goodness, not from me, but from everyone else who said that they love the convention and the conference, and they took away so many points. And to us, it was just a blessing to be able to do that and relate that all over. And we were so enthused about it. And that's a big part of it for sure. And actually, you'll be the first one for me to say this out loud right here. Pre-launch, I hope this doesn't go live until next week, but we just finalized our dates for our Toronto conference as well, which is going to be in November 6th and 7th, or 7th and 8th, one of those days. And so we're bringing it to Toronto, because of course in North America, there's a lot of the same information, but a lot of the laws, legalities are completely different north of the border and south of the border, and some of the FDD stuff is a little bit different. And so a lot of it is, of course, the brands are very different on either side. Sure, there are some that cross the border, a lot of those, more of those empire type brands, but there's many different brands that can soak in that information. And so the conference is a lot to do with the education, but we also have masterminds, which are peer advisory groups where, again, we're trying to share information. We're trying to bring together like-minded individuals that want to learn more and continue their understandings and discuss their frustrations. And we keep it in a non-competitive group. But again, these groups are meant for franchise development people. We have another one which is for C-suite marketing individuals. And again, it's really all about sharing information and bringing people together so that we can hash out all the issues that trouble us and make it easier to keep going. And then finally, one other thing actually is we are doing a spin, and this is also going to start in April, May. We're just finishing the final touches. Is a podcast as well. Now I know there's a lot of podcasts out there, but we want to do it in a little bit of a different spin so that it is very nichey. It will be more for the franchisors, where we are spinning education. If you want to learn more about generating leads through XYZ, or you want to learn more about why certain digital marketing is important in certain areas, and all these different intricacies that aren't going to be relatable to the general public, but for franchisors, people in development, people in marketing, CEOs, they're all going to want to tune in, because who doesn't like free education?
I love it. Wow. And I can tell you, I heard a lot about that conference in February. Really good commentary. Considering that was the inaugural one, the attendance was fantastic. And I saw some of the presentations coming out of that. Kirk from our office attended as well. And I heard nothing but good things. So happy it's coming to Toronto in November. That's amazing.
Oh, great. No, good. Yeah, we're super excited. And we just signed on the dotted line. Actually, Leanne did last week, and we're ready to rock. Now we're going to start rolling it out in the next little bit.
Well, you couldn't have picked June, hey? Because November, it could be a little chilly, so.
Well, it's true. Great. It's true.
Well, so let's segue that into your general experience here. So you travel all over. You talk to franchisors, obviously big in the franchising space in multiple facets, as we talked about at the top. So what are you seeing as the big trends? When you're talking with franchisors, what are they talking about? Or from an educational standpoint, what are you focusing on when you talk with franchisors?
Sure. That's a great question, actually, because we find that the trends actually change quite a bit year over year. Different things are rising all the time. And, if I even to pick a few things that came out of Let's Grow, I think one of the biggest ones, and it is actually, all over LinkedIn and what a lot of the Zors are talking about is technology, right? We live in a digital age, and, whether we're talking about AI or being powered by chatbots or virtual reality, there's so many different things that are coming out of, through that technology and AI sector. I think it's probably top of the list right now. I know we even had a few sessions on artificial intelligence, but in today's day and age, there's so much happening where you can save yourself enormous amounts of time, and it doesn't relate to one specific piece, but let's say we're talking about the business development side, right? Speed to lead. You can get your leads in, they can come in, go through your website, get into your CRM, your appointment can be set, and you don't have to do anything, like literally like that. Same thing with accounting, right? Through the chat bots, you get an invoice or you want to send out an invoice. It can be input right into your QuickBooks. You can submit, the invoice can go out. You don't even need someone to do that. It can all be easily programmed and regulated. I shouldn't say easily because I don't know that piece of it. But once you have the system in place, technology is huge. I know some, I've heard of some Zors that even use virtual reality for their training, right? So they're not, I'm not using the word wasting, but they're not spending their time having to do that when, it can be done. And at least it's still kind of a hands-on approach where someone's not reading from a book, right? If you don't have a person there and you're using the virtual reality, it's like in the same. I would say that's probably the top. But there's a couple of either more ones that more people are talking about, and definitely in 2003 and 2004 that have come about. I would say sustainability, right? So many more people care about the environment and, green initiatives, I guess. And, if you can get into renewable energies or and recycling and all that good stuff, and create your system around that, or, work that more into it from every aspect, it's going to definitely assist you. And people that are more cognizant of this newer generations that are getting in, right? That's what they look for in seeking out franchises and stuff like that. And I think, I guess the last one I would say is probably the, if COVID has proven anything, it's that office environment, being able to create a remote work environment, I think would probably be a big one. And if you can work that into your system where, people can work half-time here and half-time there. I mean, there's still a lot of onus on individuals if they actually do the work. I personally like to be in the office because it, gets me out of the house and it gets me going, and I'm in my work environment, which is a little bit different than my office at home. But I know everyone's a little bit different, and definitely newer generations as they come like to work remotely. And so, if you can work around that into your systems, and a lot of different things that are always trending annually.
Yeah, really good ones. To touch on one you mentioned there, we actually had, when you were talking about virtual reality, we had Robert Bruschi from Control V on the show a few weeks back, and he was talking about that. When everyone thinks of virtual reality, you think of video games. And he was talking about the fact that it's being used more and more for training, and particularly you combine that with the remote working environment you just mentioned. So suddenly you have an environment where you can train your people remotely, they can work remotely, you can get the best talent from anywhere you need. But you're absolutely right in that it takes work. You have to build culture. What are your systems? Yeah, how do you maintain contact? How do you work with people over different time zones? But it is interesting because I agree with you. There's a lot of franchisors that are trying to take advantage of what was that kind of new economy thinking to be able to scale faster and use technology to do so, right?
Yeah.
Well, so let's talk about advice you're giving franchise systems. So obviously, again, you talked to a lot of franchisors. So if you were giving one piece of advice to franchise companies in this economy with the trend lines you're seeing, is there anything in particular you're encouraging them to emphasize?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of what I'm thinking now actually is coming out from, I was just at the Miami franchise show. I just got in actually yesterday. We had our event on Saturday and Sunday, and I was talking to a few different people. And so there's probably a lot of answers to this question. But I think one of the main things that I would say is, I think it's really about continuously educating yourself and your employees. So this is top of mind because I actually had, I think on 3 different occasions where some really top-notch individuals that have been with organizations for a long time had confided in me to say, hey, I'm kind of looking, I'm thinking of going. And then I said, well, really? I mean, you're so great here and this is amazing. And, your company is not going to be too thrilled with you leaving. And so it really just brought to me an understanding that, yes, nobody likes to become complacent. Nobody likes to continue to do the same thing over and over and over. And so I think it has a lot to do with, constantly educating yourself, right? Yeah. Letting individuals grow and, letting them thrive because, when they start to, and of course, from that other standpoint, from an HR standpoint, that it can really hinder your company because we all know that now you got to find somebody new. Now the training that you got to put into that person, by the time they get up to speed, we're talking, could be tens of thousands of dollars to just do all that. And I don't think we really, because it's not a tangible item, we're not too reflective on, our people coming and going. But funny enough that the franchise industry does have, I don't want to say a lot, but, people that hop from one place to the next. And so I think there should be a lot more of an onus on educating yourself and, keep getting people up to speed so that they can grow themselves, which will in turn become a win-win situation for both.
Yeah, I've heard that from a few folks I've been talking with because it's a hot economy for hiring right now. I don't have to tell anyone out there that it's tough to find good people, particularly at the senior ranks of your franchise organization. And you're absolutely right. There's a ton of movement in the industry where people are moving from one organization to the next. So an environment of continuous improvement, an environment of growth and learning and leadership, it's so important. And even just using it as a trickle-down effect to all your franchisees, right? So you want your franchisees to also be constantly learning and adapting. So I think that's well said, Michael, in terms of a good area for franchise systems to focus on. Shifting gears a little bit, I did want to make sure we talked a little bit about the National Franchise Show. I know you run that as well. So let's talk a bit about the National Franchise Show. And how does it help franchise systems?
Sure. So the National Franchise Show has been around for over 25 years. And the goal, of course, is to connect franchisors with prospective franchisees. So we produce 13 franchise trade show events all across the country in different cities. And annually, we rotate the cities that we're in so that we can assist the ZORs that are looking for, franchisees in different areas. What we do is we hone in on a specific area and we try to find you a franchise from within that city and the surrounding area. That's kind of the franchise show in a nutshell. We just find that, trying to target a whole state or a whole region of the country, franchise shows don't have that kind of cachet where people are going to drive for, 3, 4, 10 hours. So we try to have multiple shows a year. The franchise brands are the ones in the booths. And then, of course, we target individuals with money, people who are actively seeking to be their own boss. And those are the types of people that we're trying to get into the franchise show to go and talk to the brand to brand to brand and spend several hours on a trade show floor. And we do it quite well.
Well, I've certainly heard good things. Now, why 13? So 12 months in a year with 13 shows. Which month do you double up on?
Yeah, so funny enough, we actually double up on a few months. We find that July and August, people are out, on vacation. And of course, December becomes a very hard month. So we're really going from January to early June, even most of June we cut off. And then we start back up in September through to November.
Oh, that makes sense. As much as you love a franchise for Christmas, maybe it's a little bit much.
Yeah.
Well, so let's elaborate on that a bit. So why would someone consider a franchise trade show, over other marketing initiatives, do you think?
Sure. So again, definitely not to plug myself. I think there's a lot of different marketing out there that you can utilize. I'm the first one to always suggest to ZORs to, never place all your eggs in one basket. Try different things, see what works. I, of course, will be a little bit biased with franchise trade shows, but I find that they work. There's a couple of reasons, and I could talk about this all day, but to kind of give you it in a nutshell is they're so qualified. The individuals are so qualified. And why are they so qualified? They have had to have seen our marketing where we're targeting them, right? So for example, if we're doing a show in Houston, we'll geofence 150-mile radius. And nowadays, because everything's done online, we'll spend tens of thousands of dollars online. Whereas in the old days, it was, TV, radio, newspaper, yeah. And that's when you would get all the tire kickers. But now, because of the geofencing and the targeting, we can target individuals through Google AdWords, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all. I can't give you all the secret sauce, but it'll literally target an individual that is seeking, someone that has money, all the different parameters that we'll put in there. And then that individual in turn, because they fall in the bucket of category of individual we're seeking, our sponsored ad will come up for them, or whatever the ad is, and of course we do a lot of other different advertising. But that individual, they've seen now the marketing. They had to get up, they had to get dressed, they had to get out of bed, they had to drive to the show, they had to pay for parking, they had to buy a ticket, and now they're spending 3 hours on a trade show floor. They're just super uber qualified. It's a little bit different than some guy sending you an email, maybe in the middle of the night because he got upset at his boss or something. I don't know. But again, I'm not saying portals also work great, and there's a lot of different things that do work well. But I find that, that's why trade shows work. And again, not to say that it's for everybody. Trade shows are hard work. I will hear all the time from people, well, am I going to sell something? Am I not going to sell something? And I'll tell them, well, listen, it's that classic example of bringing the horse to the water, but I can't force it to drink, right? I will deliver the people to the trade show floor. But if you're not putting your best foot forward, if you're not standing up, if you're not making eye contact, if you're not smiling and looking inviting, and then if you're not pitching properly, talking properly, if you're sitting behind your desk and playing on your laptop or playing on your phone while you're watching hundreds of people walk by, and you're not collecting any contact information because you need to follow up, then you're not going to succeed. But the guys, that's why I have many customers that do every single one of our shows. I even have, well, we do 13 shows in the US. We also do 12 shows in Canada. I have some that do all 25. Wow. So, they know how to work shows. They know that they work. And if you're that kind of a person, then you can absolutely sell at every show. I'm not saying it's easy and it's not for everybody, but if you know the way to work it, you're going to love it.
Well, and your point's a good one, where the person's had to get off the couch, like you said, get dressed, drive themselves there. So clearly there's interest. But I also agree. We've all been to the trade shows where the guy behind the booth is busy staring at his phone, not engaged at all. So it's good advice for sure for anyone out there listening who's thinking about trade shows. Don't stare at your shoes. Make some eye contact, as Michael says.
Exactly.
So Michael, as we're kind of bringing it to a bit of a close here. So, what do you think nobody's talking about in the industry, but they should be?
So that's a good one. Not talking about, I'm going to give a plug to the other side now. And this is actually I was talking about this with I'm not going to mention any names, but with a franchise attorney, a friend of mine. And she was actually brought up the thought, how she was telling me that nobody really talks about the doubts of franchisees. This is on the other side of things.
Interesting.
Because we're all on the Zor side, and even myself as a supplier, all the Zors are my friends. And please, anyone watching this, don't shoot me. But she was just saying how, they have so many doubts. And again, this is also not a plug for Let's Grow. But I think if Zors offered more of, entrepreneurial training, if they offered a little bit more mentorship and ongoing support. And again, I'm not saying that's for everybody, because a lot of them do. But Zors can nurture an ownership mindset, right? These people that are coming to you, they have the ownership mindset. It's already there, right? So when a Z truly feels like an entrepreneur, it can unleash their full potential, right? It's kind of a catch-22, because here you are, with a franchise system, and you're coming to a franchise because it's a proven successful model, and it's supposed to be cookie cutter. But these people that are also coming, they're entrepreneurs, right? A lot of them want to kind of shine with their own ideas as well. And I guess that's not necessarily what I'm getting at, but they might have their own hidden doubts and just need more support and more mentorship, and they don't voice that. Supposedly a lot of them don't. And again, I'm not suggesting that a lot of franchisors don't have that in place, because I know for a fact that a lot of them do. But just something even maybe a bit more for some of the emerging brands to consider, while you're doing your stuff and you're putting your systems in place. And a lot of times you're so busy wanting to sell your first, 1 to 5 or 5 to 10 franchises, you kind of lose track that you need to get that first one up and going and make sure that you're really babying them, but allowing them to openly share their challenges and their concerns and their ideas. I think it's crucial.
Well, that first 1 to 5, that proves the model. So if those ones aren't doing well, you're going to have a heck of a time selling 6 to 10. So absolutely, that support network and making sure that the franchisees, get the support they require. And it's interesting. So we've had a few people mention franchisee support, but you're the first one that's mentioned it in the frame of they have doubts too. And I think that comes back to the whole mantra of franchising. You're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And in a franchise system, a lot of those doubts can be addressed if you just ask. I think that's kind of your point, Michael, is make sure that you're asking and make sure you're plugged in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So much to it, but and I'm sure that a lot of them do think about it too. And the problem is we all get so busy with what we're doing, and life is always it's going and it's going and it's going, and so we try to stop and smell the roses, I guess.
stop and train some franchisees and smell some roses,
exactly.
and maybe go to a franchise show and all kinds of stuff.
Never ending.
Oh, Michael, this has been great. Thank you so much for taking your time. Thanks so much for sharing your insights, your expertise. I'm personally looking forward to the show when it's in Toronto in November. I will be there for sure. For those of you who are watching, I encourage you to look up Franchise Assembly. It's a great organization. If you haven't already, I encourage you to like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of our episodes. Thanks again, Michael, and everybody have an awesome day.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.